The grunting swordsman filled our open doorway. Your place here, unexpected for the beggar's ring. But for the accuracy of his sentiment, one might easily doubt that Placido de Vasil's swollen, seeping eyes could take in the details of my household. The rest of him was no more promising. He reeked of wine and urine. An angry scar creased his face from eye to the clotted rat's nest of black hair on his chin. Grime and grease disguised the colors of his cheap doublet. Yet my expectations were not entirely correct either. First glimpse said he'd run to fat, but the buff jerkin and leather breeches hugged a big frame layered with muscle and sinew. The taverner had called the duelist old man, but not even his unhealthy skin would mark him past 35. Be welcome, swordmaster. I motioned him to step inside. You're no lawyer, are you, Romy of Lizard's Alley? He asked, lip curled enough to twist the ugly scar. His glance scoured my shelf of pen cases, ink flasks, and stacked parchment. Why do you care what I am? I said, more curious than annoyed. 'Tis unsafe to have me waving a blade near vermin. Truly, many citizens had reasons to be wary of lawyers. Be at ease. I'm but a lowly scribe, I said, and it's my brother Neri will be your student. Student? My brother arrived in our doorway as if his name had summoned him. He scowled at the slovenly man, whose height topped his by the length of his forearm. Neri sat a stack of clean parchment on the table. I know how to swill wine well enough, he said. Senor de Vasil comes recommended, little brother. Supposedly he teaches better than he washes. We'll hope. My jab slid off the man, whose bleared eyes took Neri's measure in turn. Neri fretted that he'd not yet reached even my height. A scrapper, are you, boy? Mostly fists and feet, and lose more than you win, I'm guessing. But you've a new blade at your belt. The swordmaster extended a scarred hand that could enclose an infant's head entire. Let me see it. I'd do all right. Neri glared at me and clamped his hand on the metal-bound sheath that housed his new dagger. Don't need a new teacher, Romy. This one looks more like to steal the blade than to know what's to do with it. I jerked my head sharply in the direction of the duelist. Show him. Only an idiot would leave her fool of a brother at the mercy of a drunkard swordmaster half again his size and infinitely more skilled, but I also had hours of copying to do before the next morning. I needed to get a sense of the swordsman quickly, and if he seemed promising, see their first lesson done. Grudging, Neri passed over the dagger. Placido examined the grip, quillions, edge, and point as a physician explores skulls, tongues, and urine. Well chosen, he conceded, a good length. But what need has a beggar's ring, boy, for a new blade and finer skills? Have you acquired a new enemy? 'Twould likely be cheaper to hire me to fight than pay me to train a hothead to skewer a dunderwit. You don't look a man who could teach anything fine, snapped Neri, his forehead scarlet. The duelist rolled his eyes at me as if to say, you see? So the fellow's perceptions were not entirely dulled. He has no particular enemy, I said, as Neri smoldered, but the world is hard and dangerous. We've recently lost our father, and my brother approaches his majority. Experience has taught me great appreciation of the sword's discipline. I thought perhaps a swordmaster could impart something of that discipline to my brother, though doubts gather about you along with the flies. Ebullient laughter burst from him, like crisp new wine from a new open cask, only to be swallowed quickly. Can't argue that now, can I? He said, harsh and low. So where shall we retire to give this a try? I'd hate to splatter blood on your parchment, Lady Scribe of Lizard's Alley.